The strangest part wasn't that my husband walked out without saying goodbye. It was the smile on his face, like he already knew something I didn't. Emily Parker stood frozen in the kitchen of their suburban home outside Nashville, Tennessee. Her coffee was still steaming. The pancakes were still on the stove. And her husband of 12 years had just picked up his truck keys, smiled warmly at her, and walked out the front door without saying a single word. No, I love you. No, see you tonight. Nothing. She laughed nervously. Very funny, Jake. Silence. The front door clicked shut. Emily expected him to come back after a few seconds. Maybe as part of one of his terrible practical jokes. He didn't. Instead, she watched his blue pickup slowly disappear down Maple Street. Something felt wrong, but she had no idea just how wrong. Parker wasn't the kind of man who disappeared. He coached Little League every Saturday. He never missed family dinners. Every anniversary, he left handwritten notes around the house for Emily to find. He was predictable. Comfortably predictable. Which made this morning feel impossible. Emily texted him. Everything okay? No response. She called straight to voicemail. By noon, she had called 7 more times. Still nothing. Then, around 3 in the afternoon, there was a knock at the door. Not Jake, 2 police officers. Emily's stomach dropped. Officer Reynolds removed his hat. Mrs. Parker, we're trying to locate your husband. Her heart nearly stopped. What happened? We're hoping you can tell us. Apparently, Jake had abandoned his truck in the parking lot of an old state park nearly 40 miles away. The doors were locked. His wallet sat neatly on the driver's seat. His wedding ring rested beside it. But Jake himself had vanished. No signs of violence. No footprints, no surveillance footage showing where he went. It looked like he'd simply disappeared into thin air. The police immediately suspected foul play. Friends whispered about hidden debts. Coworkers wondered if he'd been secretly unhappy. Even Emily started questioning everything she'd believed about her marriage. Had she missed signs? Had Jake been living a double life? Then the detective asked one question that haunted her. Did he seem different this morning? Emily remembered that smile. Calm, peaceful, almost relieved. And suddenly, she wasn't sure she knew her husband at all. 3 weeks passed, Mitch's team stopped looking. The news moved on. Neighbors stopped bringing casseroles. Life became painfully quiet. Emily couldn't sleep in their bedroom anymore. Every night she replayed that final smile. One evening, while cleaning Jake's workshop, she accidentally knocked over an old toolbox. A false bottom slid open. Inside was a small envelope. Her hands trembled. Across the front were 4 words. For Emily. If needed. Her breathing became shallow. She slowly unfolded the letter. The first sentence changed everything. If you're reading this, then I never made it home. Emily felt the room spin. Jake had expected this. The letter wasn't a goodbye. It was a confession, not of betrayal, of sacrifice. Years earlier, before they'd met, Jake had worked undercover for a federal task force, investigating organized cargo theft across several southern states. The operation had ended with dozens of arrests, or so everyone believed. But one dangerous man had escaped. Recently, Jake had learned that the man had resurfaced, and worse, He'd discovered where Jake lived. The threats had started quietly. Anonymous letters, unknown cars parked outside the neighborhood, phone calls with only silence. Jake had reported everything. Federal agents promised protection. But Jake didn't trust that it would come in time. His letter continued. If I disappear, it's because I chose to leave before they came here. If they wanted revenge, I'd rather they chase me than you. Emily burst into tears. He hadn't abandoned her. He had tried to save her. But there was one final line. There's something hidden in our cabin in Gatlinburg. Don't go alone. Emily should have called the FBI immediately. Instead, she drove to the mountains herself. The family cabin sat deep among the trees, exactly as they had left it after Christmas. Dust covered everything. Nothing looked disturbed until she noticed one loose floorboard beneath the fireplace. Inside was a small metal box. It contained flash drives, old case files, photographs, and one recent picture. Emily stared at it in horror. Someone had taken a photo of their house from across the street only 2 weeks before Jake disappeared. On the back was written, "They're already watching." Then she heard footsteps outside. Someone was there. Her heartbeat thundered. The cabin door creaked. A shadow crossed the window. Emily grabbed the fireplace poker, barely able to breathe. The doorknob slowly turned. Then, "Emily!" she gasped. It was Special Agent Marcus Ellis. Behind him were 3 FBI agents. "We've been trying to find you." Emily nearly collapsed. Marcus explained they'd intercepted communications connected to Jake's old case. The same criminal organization had been searching for the hidden evidence Jake had collected. The flash drives. Jake knew they would eventually come after the cabin, which meant whoever had been outside wasn't just passing through. They were hunting. As agents secured the area, gunshots suddenly echoed through the forest. The suspects had arrived. Chaos erupted. Agents returned fire while leading Emily toward armored vehicles. The chase through the smoky mountain roads lasted nearly 20 minutes. When it was finally over, several suspects were arrested. One escaped. Marcus looked exhausted. "We're close now." Emily asked the question she'd carried for weeks. "Is Jake alive?" Marcus hesitated, then nodded slowly. "We think so." 48 hours later, federal agents raided an abandoned warehouse outside Birmingham, Alabama. Inside, they found evidence linking multiple crimes stretching back decades. And in a locked storage room, Jake browsed thin, exhausted, but alive. Emily rushed toward him before anyone could stop her. Neither spoke. They simply held each other tighter than ever before. Finally, Jake whispered, "I'm sorry I couldn't tell you." Emily cried into his shoulder. "You smiled like everything was okay." Jake smiled again. "The last thing I wanted you to remember was fear." Months later, after the trials ended, Jake officially retired from federal service. The hidden evidence he'd protected became the final piece prosecutors needed to dismantle the criminal network forever. Life slowly returned to normal. Saturday baseball games, family barbecues, quiet mornings drinking coffee together. Sometimes Emily still watched him grab his truck keys before work. He always stopped at the door. Now he kissed her forehead. "I love you." She smiled back every single time. because she understood something she never had before. Real love isn't measured by grand speeches. Sometimes, it's measured by the impossible choices someone makes to keep the people they love safe. And sometimes the quietest goodbye carries the loudest promise. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your thoughts in the comments below.